Hey folks, this is Ben Gessel. How's it going? How's it going? Oh man, I am still feeling just great. I don't know if you guys can tell, and um, well, when my stress level is lower, and I'm more relaxed, my body's just recovering from something more stressful, I suppose you could say. And and I've had a good diet, especially. There's some factors that actually cause my voice to deepen a little bit, and that's a good thing. It means when my voice is lower, it usually means that, yeah, my stress level is lower and my body is more rejuvenated. If my voice is a little bit higher, it means, yeah, I'm going through some crap. Well, it's not always the case. It's not always the case, but man, do I feel great right now. Anyway, so you get the more baritone Ben. The more relaxed baritone Ben. Baritone-ish. I could tell you more about tenor, baritone, bass, musical stuff, or singing, whatever. That's a different subject. So, anyway, um, what I want to talk about with this video, more especially, was although I'm sure I've hit the subject quite a bit before, it's not going to be just one subject. It's going to be the general. It basically is this: how do you know that something is true, and more in a scientific realm? We'll talk more about science, not just nutrition, but um, kind of talking about nutrition, but also kind of just science in general. How do you know? How do you know that something is just scientifically true? Well, you know, it's it's just that you can kind of you can go to school, you go to college, take classes, you can read, you can study on your own, kind of, and when you're ever reading about any subject, you can always compare what you're reading with some other book or some other subject. And professors will tell you which authors are more reputable and knowledgeable and scholarly, and you know you'll get there's an ongoing there's always an ongoing quest to find what's really true, and some people have more integrity about it. It's just everybody's. So there's still a lot of confusion, of course, in the world. We don't know everything, but we do know about a lot of stuff. The more we learn about what is scientifically true, scientific truths, or as far as we understand science to work, you know, we just come to understand it more and more. There's a quest. It's a quest. We are frustrated sometimes by our lack of. We want to know what what particles are smaller than subatomic particles. We want to know how each of the subatomic particles and how it affects protons and so forth, and they compare and contrast those things with electrons and all that stuff, right? And we can talk about chemistry, we can talk about physics, how matter and light and magnetism and gravity, electricity, how they all work and things, and how a lot of those things are very interconnected, and acoustics and centripetal force and all this stuff. Geology, astronomy, biology, of course. And getting to biology, you can get into nutritional science and organic chemistry and esters and alcohols. And I think one of the great things, for me at least, is sometimes I've taken for granted whatever I've learned in my science classes when I was younger. Kind of taking some of that stuff for granted, because knowing what I know, the more that you learn, even if we don't fully understand many things, we have some level of understanding about some things. But it's true that we just don't know a lot of things still. But the more that I know that I've learned useful things, the more I just like I've learned things. in school or college, it helps you to understand other things better. A classic example of this is the relationship between musical harmony and math, ratios, right? Without getting too much into it right now, when you divide a string in half, you go up an octave. It's the same letter or pitch. It sounds very much alike. Divide a string in thirds, you're going to hear a fifth. If you take 2/3 of, well, anyway, you get fifths, basically. Like a third of the string. You get a fifth above. You get a fifth above. Well, anyway, a fifth above the. Yeah. So first you take half the string. It's an octave above. Then a fifth of the bigger string is going to be a fifth above that upper octave. If you take 2/3 of the string, it's going to be a fifth above the lowest pitch. Anyway, going and so forth, so on and so forth. Fourths are going to divide that upper octave again into the next octave up. 1/5 is going to be a third above that highest octave we just got to. And then 1/6 again is going to be the next fifth above that next octave. And so on and so forth. And you get the harmonic series that way. Seventh is going to be dominant 7 above the. Yeah, so I can tell you more about that if you guys are curious, but there's a definite relationship between musical harmonies and math. But that's one of many. There's so many links. And we're talking about biology. There's a lot. There's a lot at work. There's a lot of forces at work. Our bodies are very complex that way, extraordinarily complex. It's true that we need a variety of minerals to function well. Our body does have minerals in reserve. Minerals and vitamins and macronutrients, fats, carbs, proteins, and water. And phytonutrients, or micronutrients, other ones, that are found in produce. We need all that stuff. We need all that stuff. Some things we don't need, or if we ingest them, it's not the end of the world. Some things are kind of double-edged swords, and we're coming to understand this more and more and more time. If you have anything artificial, though, it's probably not needed by the body. Anything that's man-made, but a lot of man-made things aren't really that bad. But some are a little bit not so good, depending on how much you have of it, of course. So again, just the more that you're eating things that are natural foods, it doesn't matter, by the way, if you. Some of these religions, almost, I've heard of, well, besides certain religions that advocate eating certain types of plant foods over other plant foods because some of how, I don't know. I know there's a lot of discussion about this. Essentially, when you eat something that came from the earth, in some form or another, like we do want the real thing, but when it comes to things like a watermelon, I would think that we would like a big, ripe, juicy watermelon over what it used to be, which is not quite as appetizing, right? But it's still, we're talking about real food. We're talking about something. If I don't know. So, okay, just kind of having jump of thought here. What often is the case when you're researching nutrition, by the way, and it's the same thing with science, in a way. If you hear something that's more recently being researched, or somebody's come to a point where they think something is more provable now, it's a theory, right? They had a hypothesis. You can have a hypothesis that's I don't know. You it's just something you suspect is true. You test it, you go through the scientific method, right? Um, I can mention what that scientific method is, but that's one of the first things you learn in college in science. It's online. You can always remind yourself what it is. Um, but yeah, it basically involves making a hypothesis, or stating a hypothesis. Then you try to um, collect information to prove that your hypothesis is true. And you do experiments, and do you get out there, and then you you make your observations, and then yeah, if your observations prove that your hypothesis is true, your tests and everything, then you can also come. And when you're all done, you say, "Oh, it's true," but then you can compare what you did with other tests, other research that's being done on the subject. You can have other people come in and also do their own tests again to verify that there was nothing weird that happened in your tests, and that's the way that you eventually learn that something is true scientifically. Um, is more or less. So it's um, when you have, I want to say with regard to nutrition, it's just again that just like biology, when we're able to look inside a cell for the very first time and see all the parts of the cell and see actually go beyond the cell, we can get into all the different parts of the cell, and we start getting into the organic, the molecular level. We can see the organic. You can actually see like the molecules and then we can also start to see the atoms that make up the molecules, and then we're talking about electron microscope at some point. It's you can get really into that stuff. Essentially we're talking about organic molecules. We're talking about a lot of carbons and nitrogens in the case of protein, but I don't know if you guys know this, but fats are made up of hydrogen and carbon. That's basically fats. Yeah. Carbohydrates have oxygen added to them. It's carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. So let me just repeat that. Fats are just carbon and hydrogen, and like long chains of them and stuff. Um, Carbohydrates have oxygen as well, so they have carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. So sugar is carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. Um, Proteins have nitrogen added to them. That's I can't remember offhand. I just remember nitrogen is the identifier with a protein, and I don't know if it has oxygen. That's the part that I keep forgetting. I think sometimes it might have anyway, but it says this is our DNA is protein, deoxyribonucleic acid, right? Um, and Anyway, but that we're just talking about four elements here. We know that water is H2O, which is just hydrogen and oxygen. I haven't mentioned any of these macronutrients that have just hydrogen and oxygen. I've only mentioned hydrogen and carbon, which can form fats, but depending on how you arrange things, it can also be things like methane, right? So it kind of depends on how you arrange the molecules. Um, yeah, but oils and gases are somewhat related that way. Um, yeah, fuels, that sort of thing. So, but yeah, so water is hydrogen and oxygen, H2O. And then you have, carbs that are sweeter, right? Starches that have hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon. And then proteins have the nitrogen added to them. And we can kind of look at taste, how they taste. We can look at what they do for our bodies, and we can start to understand the nature of these atoms better. By the way, you can say, oh, nitrogen is present in fertilizer. Nitrogen is in a lot of green plants. The proteins. This is proteins in green plants. This is why a lot of animals that eat grass and greens are able to get their protein so much from, because there's a lot of protein there, but their stomachs can digest the stuff. Where a lot of cows, like, we can't digest certain things as well. We don't eat grass and stuff, but cows have 4 stomachs and all this stuff, right? You've learned this stuff in biology, but but it makes sense. It should make sense that the body is able to burn. Why is the body able to burn carbs so quickly? Does it have something to do with the oxygen that's present in it? It's just, anyway, and why do fats? You can just keep going down through in your mind what's really going on with all this stuff. Anyway, we can get into other compounds and things. Salt is sodium and chlorine combined, and there are 2 different elements that we haven't talked about yet, at least for this video. So salt is kind of a different kind of thing, right? And like if there's any subject in science that I would like to pursue more, there's a lot of them, but astronomy, chemistry, and biology, those 3, astronomy, chemistry, and biology, I just find those subjects very, very fascinating. But making the jump to nutrition and stuff, just talking about all this stuff, there's a lot of things that we don't always think about regarding, like, minerals and vitamins vitamins themselves are a bit more complex. But again, a lot of times we're talking about a lot of these more the sort of elements that are more basic, that are used more in organic compounds like hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, that kind of stuff. We're not talking about helium, not lithium, not beryllium so much, and definitely not beryllium, but maybe boron. Boron's more just a mineral on its own, by the way. It's not. So basically, it's just hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and, like, there's a few other compounds that come in to play sometimes with some organic molecules like sulfur and stuff. But yeah, there's not too many that in potassium, phosphorus and stuff. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I also I remember, like, there's different kinds of. We're talking about electrons and things in chemistry. You guys know there's, like, the ionic bonds, right? If something is more of an inorganic substance is generally we're talking more about ionic or metallic bonds. A covalent bond is an electron that's shared. Well, it's I know what I'm trying to say, but it's a little bit. Anyway, covalent bonds are a little different than ionic and metallic bonds. Covalent bonds are more talking about organic substances. So ionic bonds have more to do with the acidity or basicness of a substance. Or there's a kind of a plus or a minus that happens more with ionic bonds, and yeah, a covalent bond is not really involving that area of positive or negative charges as much. It's just different. I'm trying to think how to. Anyway, I know what I'm trying to say, but yeah, there are electrons that are shared by 2 different, um, atoms, and this is something that just affects the nature of organic versus inorganic compounds quite a bit. Um, so I mentioned all this stuff because it's just the tip of the iceberg regarding understanding nutrition, again, from a chemical, like, and also there's also the biochemical side to this, all this stuff. Um, and the minerals that we take in are in different forms than the minerals we often find in nature that have they're less. It has to do with how easily the body is able to absorb certain types of states of minerals. And in this subject, there's so many more things that I personally need to learn as well to be able to. I can explain it somewhat, but I know this is something I should understand even better. And here's the kicker, folks: understanding what's true in all this stuff, talking about science and things. So, as much as I know, and I do know a fair bit about this stuff, there's so much I still don't know. And consider that all people on YouTube and all their channels and there's people that we valued quite a bit as teachers, and we value what we trust that what we learn in more scholarly books, especially, is true. But it's it's so easy just to listen to somebody on YouTube and say this must be, he must have a good point. Whoa, when a person might not. Now, you can also, there's people, I don't know how to mention this, okay, vegetable police as well, but there are many people that come to understand what's healthy, what's not, just from their own lives, from lifestyle patterns and what they eat and stuff and drink. I completely understand that. And I can tell you, I've done the same thing. I've done the same thing in other videos I've made. I can tell you even more stuff like that, in future videos. But, and just to sum up, what happens if you're eating a lot more vegetables is your body feels like it's able to run better. You just feel more efficient. When you're eating a lot of fruit, it helps in a similar way. Your body just might not, it might be a little bit of sugar, right? You can overdo it with fruit, but your body still is able to use a lot of the stuff that vegetables have as well in a similar way. So you get a lot of maintenance type substances and a lot of things that we have we still don't fully understand, but things that help your skin and just everything in your body, just maintaining everything, and it helps you age slower, basically. Eventually, you get to, you can talk about fiber, you can talk about all this, the minerals and everything, and different kinds of foods. But when you start getting to the heavier foods, especially animal foods and stuff, I mentioned that protein, for instance, has nitrogen in it. We need protein, sure. We don't need a whole heck of a lot of it, but we do, because what's our body made of? Well, our body's made of water, but there's other stuff as well, and we as humans need proteins because we need to build proteins because we need to work our muscles to do stuff. And muscles need protein, right? But muscles also need other stuff like B vitamins. The B vitamins work with the protein. I'll get into the chemistry of how muscles work. But many other substances the body uses many other substances, like vitamin K2 and bone health. Like, where's vitamin K2? Well, geez, I mean, K1 is in greens, right? K2, where's K2? K2 is in animal foods, right? I honestly can't remember offhand. I just know that I'm getting my vitamin K. So you can get K2 supplements, and you talk about vitamin D and all this stuff. And I've mentioned all this stuff before in other videos, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that your body needs a variety of things that you tend to get. I know people tend to get more of in the past, but you can still, if you're getting a good variety of plant foods and maybe some other stuff if you want to go the animal route, but if you're eating a variety of foods and you are watching how much donuts you eat, right? You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine. But there are minerals in real food. Minerals and vitamins and all the stuff your body needs. It's all there. Think of it this way: our bodies came from the earth. When, if you want to believe God created us or not, we came from the earth. Our bodies are made of the stuff that is also in the earth. And so when you eat and drink stuff that came from the earth, you're taking into your body stuff your body can turn into, what it needs to help to make. When you consume stuff that it's just not quite really the right combination of things. It's too much of certain things, or it's in forms that isn't as able to be digested by the body. Particularly when it's man-made stuff, it's not going to be as healthy for you. But there are worse things you could do to your body. Drugs. There are substances in the earth that you just don't want to take into your body. But there are reasons why we have these substances, and we don't always know all the reasons why these different substances exist. But we know that some things you can use for your skin that you wouldn't want to have inside your body necessarily, but other things you can kind of use with the guide of help of a doctor. I don't fully understand this side of like medicine and chemistry, of course, but morphine is something that you don't want to include in your diet, a regular part of your diet. For instance, opium, like opiate-like stuff. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, like drugs. If you have a prescription, great. If you don't, no. you know. Yeah. Mushrooms are good for you, and if they have psychedelic effects, they might have more effects than just, whoa, that's pretty trippy. If we don't fully understand, how can I put this? Licking a frog, getting high. I've never done that before myself, but there are reasons I haven't done that. It's kind of like we can understand that sugar is a form of drug in a way. We understand the effect of sugar, right? It's can be addicting. It's a quick energy boost if you go out and do something athletic. But if you just are sitting around, it's going to go to your gut, right? We understand this stuff by now. But it's just it's a concentration of certain substances. Sometimes it's the issue, and yeah. I mean, we can consume hemp seeds. Yeah, we can consume hemp milk. Marijuana, though, well, you make your own mind, but just if something kind of toys with your brain, it might have adverse side effects. We don't know what they might be. We just know that there might be some things that aren't so great about that. And if you honestly don't know, why would you want to risk? Why would anyone want to risk their health? Regarding consuming or taking into their body substances that they're not really sure what effect it's going to have on them. We debate so much about nutrition. Why would drugs be something that we feel a lot more confident in using? So, I mean, like, okay, if you take, I'm gonna wrap this video really quick. I'll just put it this way. One thing. I take multivitamin sometimes. I've noticed the effect that B vitamins have on me, and they do really help. They can also make you really jittery. It's like almost like caffeine, but anyway, they do have an effect on me, and I'm gonna have to make more videos about the effect of these things in the future. But You can know something is true. Again, just to sum up, you can know something is true via learning something and coming to understand it logically, or life experience. But if it's life experience, it should be something that doesn't hurt you. You know, that's the thing. It shouldn't adversely affect you. Anyway, leave me thoughts and comments below. Catch you guys later. Bye.